Imagine you own a home, and two walls are slowly closing in on you. One wall says, you can't sell because your place is worth so much less than you paid that walking away means eating a loss that could take a decade to recover from. The other wall says, you can't afford to stay because your mortgage is coming up for renewal, and the new payment is climbing past what your budget can handle. Right now, hundreds of thousands of Canadian homeowners are standing between those two walls. And here's the cruel part. I'm going to prove to you today. Those two walls are not separate problems. They're the same wall. The exact thing that stops these people from selling is the exact thing that stops them from affording to stay. One force, sealing both exits at once. These aren't flippers or speculators. They're people who bought a home to live in. Today I'll show you how the trap snapped shut, who's caught in it, and the one detail that ties the whole thing together. Let's get into it. Let's start with the first wall, the one that traps you in place. You can't sell without taking a brutal loss. Here's how far values have actually fallen. In the Toronto area, the average condo went from around $770,000 at the peak in early 2022 to about $540,000 by early 2026. That's a drop of nearly 30%. And in that comparison, not a single municipality across the region posted a gain. Not one. The whole map went red. Even the overall average home price in the GTA slipped below $1 million for the first time in years. So if you bought anywhere near the top, selling today doesn't get you out. It hands you a loss, in cash, that you actually have to absorb. For a lot of people, it's worse than a loss on paper. They're underwater. That means they owe more on the mortgage than the home is now worth. A well-known mortgage broker who's tracked this for years put it plainly on a podcast. He's watching homeowners sitting on mortgages with little or no equity left at all. Think about what that does to you. You can't sell because the sale wouldn't even cover what you owe the bank. The front door is locked from the outside, and you can feel the exhaustion of it in how people talk. On Reddit, one homeowner wrote that they'd come to terms with having lost $150,000 on their place, and they just wanted to sell, take the hit, and start fresh as a renter. Read that again. The dream now isn't getting ahead. It's just getting out, eating a six-figure loss, and going back to renting so they can breathe. This is absolutely brutal for someone who thought owning a home was the safe, responsible thing to do. Now, to be fair, this is not every homeowner. If you bought before 2020, you're very likely still sitting on real equity, and you're fine. This trap is specifically for the people who bought near the peak, roughly 2021 into 2022, at the worst possible moment. But that's a huge number of people, and they're the ones the walls are closing on. So fine, you think. If I can't sell without losing a fortune, I'll just stay. I'll ride it out until the market recovers. That's the reasonable plan. And that is exactly where the second wall starts moving toward you. Because staying is about to get more expensive than you can afford. And the reason why is the same reason you couldn't sell. Here's the second wall. Even if you're willing to sit tight and wait, your mortgage doesn't sit tight with you. In Canada, your rate resets every few years, and 2026 is shaping up to be the single biggest year for mortgage renewals in the country's history. Millions of people who locked in near 2% during the pandemic are now renewing at 4, 4.5, sometimes higher. For a typical household, that's hundreds of dollars more a month. And for one group, hundreds of thousands of households, the payment shock is 40% or more. On the same home, with the same paycheck. So now picture the vice fully closed. You can't sell because you'd lose a fortune, and you can't comfortably stay because the payment just jumped. And here's the part almost nobody connects. The move that would normally save you is blocked, and it's blocked by the exact same thing. Normally, if your payment got too heavy, you could refinance, pull a little equity out of your home to ease the strain, or restructure the loan. But you can't, because your home is worth less than it was. There's no equity to pull. One analysis found a typical owner who bought near the peak might need somewhere between $50,000 and $110,000 in extra equity just to qualify to refinance, money that evaporated when prices fell. Let that sink in, because this is the whole story in one sentence. The falling home value is what traps you on both sides. It's why you can't sell without a loss. And it's why you can't refinance to afford staying. It's not two problems. It's one force locking two doors. Translation: the same market drop that took your equity also took your escape routes. That's what makes this a genuine trap, and not just a rough patch. And the reason values fell in the first place isn't a mystery. The Bank of Canada looked at Toronto and explained it plainly. For a decade, this market was propelled by investors betting on rising prices and low rates. When population growth eased and rates climbed, that investor demand collapsed, and the values it had inflated came down with it. So the ordinary homeowner, who never speculated on anything, got caught in the undertow of a bet other people made. Now, to be fair again, let's keep this honest. Not everyone renewing is getting crushed. Some households will absorb the higher payment, and some on variable rates may even see relief as rates ease off their peak. And renewing your mortgage, on its own, is usually manageable. It's the specific combination, bought near the peak, underwater, and renewing into a higher rate all at once, that snaps the trap shut. That's a smaller group than the headlines imply. But for the people in it, there's no good door to walk through. And here's the signal that this is moving from fear to fact. The share of people actually falling behind on their mortgage is now climbing. And it's not climbing evenly. In one specific place, it jumped almost 50% in a single year. If you want to know where this trap is snapping shut hardest, the data points to one region. And it's probably not a surprise. Nationally, the picture still looks calm. The share of Canadians seriously behind on their mortgage is low, well under 0.5%. And by global standards, that's remarkably stable. But underneath that calm surface, the Federal Housing Agency has flagged pockets of real stress, and it named exactly where: Toronto and Vancouver. In the Toronto area, the share of homeowners falling behind jumped around 45% in a single year. Off a low base, yes, but that's the fastest climb in the country, and it's happening precisely where the price drops were steepest and the near-peak buyers are most concentrated. In their own words, arrears remain low overall, but pockets of significant stress exist beneath the surface. That's the honest shape of this, not a national fire, but a fire in specific rooms. And the price weakness isn't only a Toronto story. It's spread. Vancouver is down roughly 10% from its own peak. Calgary has slipped from its high too. And the same pattern of underwater near-peak buyers exists wherever prices ran hottest and then turned. When a homeowner in one of those cities gets their renewal letter, they're facing the same closed vice. No equity to refinance, no gain to sell into. And here's the comparison that keeps this fair, because that's the whole point of this channel. Canada is not uniquely doomed. Look at the United States. Their mortgage delinquency rate is running around 7 times higher than Canada's. The vast majority of American mortgages are current and performing. So when someone tells you Canada's housing market is the worst on earth, the hard numbers don't back that up. What Canada has is different. Not a broad wave of defaults, but a tight, concentrated trap, closing hardest on the specific people who bought at the top in a couple of expensive cities. It's not the end of the world. But if you're the one standing between those two walls, a low national average doesn't loosen the grip one bit. That's the quiet tragedy in all of this. In a normal market, an owner who hits a rough patch has options: sell and move on, or refinance and ride it out. We built a moment where, for a specific group of ordinary people, both of those doors locked at the same time. with the same key. They didn't gamble. They just bought a home to live in at the wrong moment and got caught between two walls made of the same falling number. So let me talk to you directly, wherever you're sitting right now. If you bought near the peak and you're feeling boxed in, you're not imagining it. That's the tightest spot in this whole story. And talking to a mortgage professional before you're in crisis matters more for you than for anyone. If your renewal is coming up, don't wait for the letter. You can shop your renewal early now, so get a broker working for you months ahead. If you've got equity from buying years ago, breathe. This trap isn't yours, even if the headlines feel scary. And if you're a renter watching all this, understand that falling rents mean the pressure to rush in has genuinely eased. Here's the truth. A specific wave of Canadian homeowners is now caught between a home they can't sell without a loss and a payment they can't easily afford, both doors locked by the same drop in value. It's a real, concentrated trap, not a national collapse. And knowing exactly which side of it you're on is how you face it with a plan instead of fear. I'll be covering exactly where this heads next, every week. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.